Hello and welcome again to segment 3 of our continuing series on democratic capitalism. I'm Professor Greenwood and this is the Mount Wachusett Community College series with author Ray Carey, author of the book Democratic Capitalism, The Way to a World of Peace and Plenty. Ray, we're going to be talking about something you call hypothesis number 3. Greed is good. Would you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, number 3 is about ultra-capitalism, and I've been working with that so long, I probably think I invented it, but I'm not sure whether I did or not. But anyway, you think of the modes of production that Marx emphasized. It was slavery in Greece at the time of Plato, it was serfdom in the Middle Ages, and it was wage slaves in the Industrial Revolution, and it should be fully free democratic capitalist today for reasons I'll mention. But a good part of it is still wage slaves, because ultra-capitalism, in my terms, is partly old mercantilism that treats the employee as a disposable cost commodity, and a finance capitalism that's dominant, not supportive of capitalism, as Smith outlined. I had two people I mentioned how much I enjoyed my new friends in history, but one that really impressed me is the Marquis of Condorcet. If Voltaire was the first of the French philosophes, Condorcet was the last, unfortunately, tragically last, because he died during the Reign of Terror in prison. But just before he died, he wrote a summary of the brilliance of this Enlightenment. People, including his friend Adam Smith, who had spent time in France, and he really drew Jefferson with his time in France,
sure.
Benjamin Franklin, the incredible concentration of beautiful people at that time, and no chauvinism.
No. And all this sharing of information without the internet,
yes, exactly,
is completely amazing when you think about this. Yes.
But the key thing is the broad distribution of wealth. And Condorcet wrote, "Wealth has a natural tendency to equality. If the administration of the country did not afford some men ways of making their fortune, they were closed to other citizens. We shall see that credit is no longer the exclusive privilege of great wealth, and by making commercial activity more independent of great capitalists." Now, we expressed it in our country that we would control currency and credit for the general welfare. We aren't. We're controlling currency and credit for the benefit of the ultra-capitalist. And Peter Drucker, in his post-capitalist society, recognized that there were new capitalists. It was the wage earner, with their pension savings, had now taken over capitalism. One very bad thing wrong with this: they are not yet enjoying the rewards of capitalism, and that's an intolerable contradiction. And the reason they aren't is that dominance by finance capitalism that I mentioned.
Now, Peter Drucker was one of the great contemporary authors of organizational dynamics in management and leadership. Exactly. Do you have a quote from, a favorite quote from Peter Drucker in your book?
Yeah, I'll lean on Peter Drucker. He's talking about basically ultra-capitalism, but he didn't use the term. "What emerged from this frantic decade, hostile takeovers, leveraged buyouts, downsizing, was a redefinition of the purpose of business and the function of management. Instead of being managed in the best balanced interest of stakeholders, corporations, stakeholders meaning employees, yes, customers, the community, the shareholders, corporations were now managed exclusively to maximize shareholder value, that is, for the shortest term. But that means damaging, if not destroying, the wealth-producing capacity of the business, means decline, and finally swift decline. Long-term results cannot be achieved by piling short-term results on short-term results. They should be achieved by balancing short-term and long-term objectives. Furthermore, managing a business exclusively for the shareholders alienates the people on whose motivation the modern business depends, the knowledge workers. An engineer, I like this, will not be motivated to work to make a speculator rich."
Let's read that again. Read that one more time.
The last sentence?
Like that. Yeah, I like that. What
Oh,
was that again?
I'd be happy to.
Yes.
"An engineer will not be motivated to work to make a speculator rich."
Now, who's the speculator there?
well, Smith called them the prodigals and projectors, but they're the people that control the economy and write the short-term rules. If you need an example, Glass-Steagall, which was put in the 1930s to prevent commercial bankers from giving easy credit in order to set the situation up for their investment bankers to come in and get the fat fees on the deals. They repealed, with lobbying by the finance capitalists, they repealed Glass-Steagall. Some called it the Citigroup Authorization Act because they're so arrogant with their lobby power. They were put together in anticipation of the repeal. Within a year, the commercial bankers at Enron piled an enormous amount of easy credit, funding all of the misadventures of Enron, so that their investment bankers could get big fees for the big deals. At Enron, the money that the commercial bankers lent was not well used, and the money that they get the big fees for, the deals weren't that great either.